Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Flip the Script podcast. I'm so pumped up you took some time today to listen or watch, and I really want to make sure over these next several minutes, I'm able to help you think differently. You know, the truth is, if you want to change your life, you have to change the way you think. And so the whole purpose of this podcast is to bring thoughts, bring ideas, have conversations with others to help us think differently, because at the end of the day, life is not about what happens to us. Life is about how we think about what happens to us. And so I really want to help us today. I'm going to go through a list. It's going to be a shorter podcast. So if you typically make sure that you watch or listen to the Flip the Script podcast today, I think will be shorter. But I've had some conversations lately with a few different people, and I've consistently heard this saying, I need to get out of my head, or I got into my head. And there's this reality that is true for me, and I think maybe it's true for many of you, that things happen in my life and I begin to overthink. I have a conversation with somebody and I go, I can't believe I said that. Why did I say that? If only I would have done this like this. I start to ask questions. Maybe I completed a project and, I got finished with it. I turned it in, and then I start to wonder, did I do that project the best that I could do that project? And I begin to ask myself questions. And once I start asking myself questions, what's actually happening is I'm questioning myself. Once I start questioning myself in my head, oh my goodness, I start to be overwhelmed. Depression, anxiety, just this overwhelmed sense. It's almost like crippling. I can't seem to move forward. So I wanted today to share really 7 thoughts on how to get out of your head so that you can move forward, how to stop overthinking so you can move forward. 7 thoughts. Here we go. Number 1, believe the best about others. You see, I think there's this reality that sometimes because we don't believe the best about others, we actually don't believe the best about ourselves. If we are able to think the best about others, if we're able to believe the best about the intentions, the perspective of other people, I think it allows us to frame our mind in such a way that we'll give ourselves a little bit more grace than maybe we would have, because the truth is this, I always want to be forgiven when I make a mistake. I always want, to not have my sins, right? My past held against me. Yet sometimes it can be hard to forget what somebody else did. Sometimes it can be hard to not be angry or frustrated at somebody else. And if we're not careful, we'll start to question motives of somebody else. And I believe if we would make a conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm gonna believe the best about what that other classmate said. I'm going to believe the best about what my spouse said. I'm going to believe the best about what my parents or my kids or somebody else did, what they said. If I choose to believe the best about their heart and their motive, what it does is it sets me on more of an optimistic versus a pessimistic perspective. One of the reasons we get stuck in our own minds is we start to go down that negative or that pessimistic way of thinking. And I think that if we make a decision to go, I'm going to believe the best about others, it will cause this flip, in essence, in our mind where we end up more optimistic than pessimistic. Number 2, again, 7 thoughts today that I'm sharing to help us get out of our head, to help you get out of your head. Know this: everyone is fighting a battle that you probably know nothing about. I think it's interesting, and even where I'm starting today, I'm going to end in a different perspective, but I think it's interesting for us to at least pause and recognize the reality that we think we're going through hard things, and we start to get in our head about those hard things. And if we could allow ourselves to recognize, the truth is you and me are surrounded by people at work, at school, at church, in the community, on our sports teams, in our different activities. They are walking through struggles and battles that you know nothing about. And when we stop and recognize that this whole thing that we call the human experience is happening to all of us, it allows us to live our lives, I would say, just to take a little bit of the pressure off. That you don't have to be perfect. That just like maybe you missed it, or just like you're like, oh man, why did I do that? Other people are walking through those same internal struggles and battles at different times. And so when I can see other people with a recognition that they are walking through things I don't even know, it helps me not be so overwhelmed about what I'm walking through personally. Number 3, thoughts to help us get out of our own head. 3rd thought, chase the light. Chase the light. Here's the truth. If you think about it like this, when we get in our own heads, when we get in that cycle of negative thoughts and it just starts to spiral, we're going down a dark tunnel. And when you find yourself going down a dark tunnel, here's the truth. All you need is a little bit of light to get out. I know for me personally, when I start to think I failed at this, I didn't do a good, let's say it's from an interaction with one of my kids, and the interaction's over and I just feel like I failed as a dad. And I start to go, man, I should have said that. Why did I say that like that? Why didn't I do this? I could have done that. And I'll start to go down. There's always a shred of light. And that shred of light is, I'm still there. I'm still in the game. There's still an opportunity for a second chance. I can still move forward from where I am right now. It doesn't have to end in this moment. Maybe it's a mistake you made at school or at work and you start to go down that dark tunnel. Why did I do this? You got to chase the light, that light of second chances. Chase the light that says you don't have to end here. Obviously, if you know me, I'm a pastor, I'm a Christian. Jesus always brings light. With Jesus, there's always a second chance. There's always hope. And so because of that, I can chase the light. Number four, and we talk about this all the time on the Flip the Script podcast. Make your words match the world you want to create. Make your words match the world you want to create. When you're in your own head, right? This concept of just like, why am I here? When you're in your own head, the words that come out of your mouth must match the world you want to live in. This is what we would say as Christians, speaking prophetically over your life. This is what we would say. This is encouraging yourself. This is declaring the things that are not as though they are. This is making certain that you're not going to simply repeat what's in front of you. I don't simply mean deny a reality of what happened, but what I'm saying is that we can make the decision that the words we hear in our own ears that come from our own mouths are words that would create a world in which we want to live. A world where we know the people around us love us. A world in which we know we are a good leader, a strong leader. You make good decisions. You're full of wisdom. You're full of knowledge. You're full of understanding, that your best days are ahead of you, not behind you. You begin to speak words that create worlds you want to actually live in. Words create worlds, so let's make sure our words are actually creating the worlds we want to live in. 7 thoughts, number 5. This is my favorite of the whole list today. Let me just say this. Come on, Flip the Script family, listen. If we do this one, it'll help your relationship with your kids. It'll help your marriage. It'll help your friendships. Number 5, let some things stay unresolved. Let some things stay unresolved. A lot of us, we hate the tension of just like not knowing how to make sure everything's good. When you live sometimes in this tension and we just need to know that everything's good, what it causes us to do is get in our own head and we start to question. And we start to question because we're like, I just need to know things are good. Now, here's the thing, is certainly in close relationships, you need to have unity. You need to not be unaware. You should be in clear communication with people you love, with people you're doing life with. But at the end of the day, the truth is, a lot of the things we go down that dark tunnel in our mind about are about things that there isn't going to be a resolution about because it doesn't necessarily matter. It's not probably near as big of a deal as we have made it out to be in our own minds. But because we really want to resolve not an actual problem in the natural, in real life, we want to resolve a lot of times something we've created in our own mind. And because of that, we just go on that dark tunnel spiral. So I want to encourage you, it's okay for some things to stay unresolved. Number six, sixth thought, we won't end here, one more after this one. Failure is not fatal or final. Failure is not fatal or final. So I communicate literally, right? I'm a pastor, I teach, I preach, and I say a lot of things that sometimes feel like failure to me. I say a lot of things sometimes that I'm like, oh my goodness, that is not what I wish I would have said right there. And if I'm not careful, I'll start to view that moment of failure as like the final. I'll start to move that moment of failure. I'll start to believe, man, this is it. And there's a lie a lot of us find ourselves in, that this mistake, it's going to have like this lasting, scarring impact on who we are going to become. And it is true. All of our decisions have impact on our life, the good ones, the bad ones. But when we get into a brain space where we're convinced because I failed at this, it's going to mess up the whole rest of my life, I stay in that tunnel. I stay in that tunnel and I'm in my own head. And here's the thing. When we're in our own head, we're not thinking about moving forward in a way that brings purpose, that brings life, that brings joy to others. You're a leader. Who I don't know exactly your name right now as you're listening to this podcast today, but I want you to know there's breath in your lungs to lead and influence people for purpose and for significance. And when we're in our own heads, we cannot lead other people. And so let that failure fall off, move forward. Number 7, this is the one I'm going to leave you with that might be the hardest. And this is from personal experience. Maybe you will have noticed it as well. We've got to speak statements to ourselves more than we ask questions to ourselves. We've got to speak statements more than we ask questions. I want you to think about it like this today. Why did I do that? When you and I ask ourselves that question, it's typically in a negative connotation, and it typically brings us down a little bit more. We don't want to, but because we ask ourselves questions that typically are attacking questions. We're attacking our own motive. We're attacking our own behavior, the decision we made, the thing that we did. And because we're asking that question, we get in our head, and then we start to think, I can't even make good decisions. Then we start to think, why could I actually be trusted with leadership? Then we start to think, why am I even in this position? Why did I get this responsibility? Why should I be able to do this? Asking these questions does not move us forward. Instead, we make statements over ourselves that are true statements. This is a little bit like number 4 in speak words that will create the world that you want. But what I want to make certain you know there are statements that are true, that I'm growing and getting better. Well, the fact that you're listening to this podcast tells me that you want to improve as a leader. You make statements over your life that says, I'm going to learn from this and I'm not going to keep making the same mistake. You make statements over your life that say, I'm going to laugh this off. If everybody else is going to laugh, I'm going to laugh too. You make statements over your life that say, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was. You make statements over your life that declare your mind is increasing and your capacity to lead is increasing. Why? Because you're growing and you're not staying the same. I want to encourage you, when you're in your head, do not ask yourself the question, why did I do this? Instead, declare statements over your life that are true about who you are and about who you can become as a leader. And this will help you jump out of that nasty spiral that so many of us who lead find ourselves in. I'm going to recap them again really quick. 7 steps to get out of your head. 7 thoughts. Believe the best about others. Remember, everyone is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. Number 3, chase the light. Number 4, make your words match the world you want to create. Number 5, be okay with some things staying unresolved. Number 6, remember, failure isn't fatal or final. And number 7, speak more statements over yourself than questions you ask yourself. I hope this helps you. If it does, I'd love for you to drop a comment, send me an email. I really want to make certain that this content is helping you change the way you think. Because if you want to change your life, you have to change your thoughts.